Hi guys, long time no see. So, as you can tell, there's a little bit of change in my my setup, but mainly it's because I'm kind of trying a new thing with this video. So some things may be a little off. I'm going to try to fix as I go. Right now I'm kind of watching myself from what I can tell on my ring light, and I'm just kind of adjusting from there. So what I'm going to be doing today, here we go. Okay, make sure you don't have any of my clutter in the camera. But what I'm going to be doing today, because, oh, let me readjust. Okay. What I'm going to be doing today, because it's been a while, I do have actual sit-down videos coming, where you see my face and, like, you know, us talk about things. I've got a lot of vintage crochet things that I want to do. I did acquire some vintage bone hooks, and I actually acquired those back in May before my kid was out of school. But those of you who are parents or take care of small children, and just children in general, know how hard it is to actually be productive outside of the kids when it's summertime. So I took an accidental hiatus. Turn off my fan. I took an accidental hiatus, and not for anything bad. A lot of big changes have been going on. I have a new job, and it's actually working outside the home, which is really exciting. I didn't think I'd ever miss that, but I do. And it has been very good for me to actually be out of the house some hours of the day. And between the job change and kids being out of school, I've been taking care of a lot of things in life. We're working on trying to move to a new place. There's just been a lot of things going on, and I really missed making content. I have a video that I started literally the last week of school. I was trucking, trying to get it done, never got it done, and I still have not finished the actual thing that I was making in the video. I may just go ahead and refilm that, or I may make it a continuation. I don't know, because the original one has an element of surprise to it, which makes it fun to watch. I don't know. I'll come across that bridge when I get there. So what we're gonna do today, I had this idea because I don't have anybody in my personal life that knits or crochets. I have some family members that used to, they don't anymore, things like that, but it's just me. And sometimes I just really wish I could get together with like a person or a friend that also did this like I do, and just be able to crochet or knit or whatever we're doing, and, you know, be able to just hang out and craft together. So I'm thinking, okay, why not do this in this format? I can kind of talk about some things while I'm working on a project. I'll have some music on in the background that'll be put in post editing, and just I think I may do this weekly, just kind of a catch up, show you guys what I'm working on. Maybe if there's like questions that end up coming, and maybe, and I kind of toyed around with this for a little bit too, maybe eventually doing live streams. Let me know. So this is just going to be the first time doing it like this, and it can only get better from here, right? Like with anything that you do for the first time. So without further ado, I'm actually going to be working on, and I will link below the designer and their website for this pattern, because it is a free pattern. I've been wanting to make a pair of Shrug, like a Shrug sleeve crop top, literally just a thing of sleeves that you can wear. I've seen they've been popular lately. I've seen some designs that I like, some that I don't, and I kind of wanted to do just a more simple project that would be a little bit shorter. It would be a little bit shorter than what my big project I'm working on, because I'm trying to finish this big cardigan and I'm almost done with it. I've got to make the others. I've got to do the other. It's a hexagon cardigan, and so I've got to finish doing the other sleeve and the cuff, and then make the ribbing on the end. There's just a couple of things I need to do to it, but I'm like super excited about it. It's been a very big project. It's probably one of the biggest things. Nah, not the biggest thing I've ever made, but probably the most time consuming, just because of the way I went about it. A couple videos back when I've shown you things that I've been working on, it was the Beetlejuice looking one, the purple, green, black. I'm almost done with that guy, and it's been a monster. So I just wanted to do something simple. It's literally just a granny stitch, and right now I'm actually working on one of the sleeve parts. Head goes through here. It's cropped right above the chest, so you wear a shirt underneath, and then here's one of the sleeves. This is the one that I'm actually working on currently, and then the other side is just attached, because you attach both of the sides at the same time. And the yarns I am using, I am actually putting 2 strands together. I like to do that with these really tiny, especially the ones that have some of the tinsel in it. I don't like working on these by themselves, because it's a lot more time consuming to get a consistent stitch, because there's just so much going on with these, especially when you have the shiny tinsel bits to it. So I have this paired with just a Caron Simply Soft black. This is probably one of my favorite yarns. It's very soft. It's a worsted 4, but it's kind of on the thinner 4 end, which I really like. I do like I like a chunky 4 too, but when I'm wearing it doing wearables, I do like this. Just drapes a little bit better, because it doesn't build up as thick as fast as, let's say, I Love This Yarn or Red Heart, Super Saver. Those are a little bit thicker. So I've got those 2 together, and it's created this beautiful gradient that has gone from just black with coppery sparkles to magenta to orange to magenta to purple, and so on and so forth. And it's doing this on this sleeve. So I'm going to start working on this. I'm actually going to go ahead and grab my hook, and I wanted to show you guys this new cup. It's a piece of pottery that I ordered from Tannins and Tantrums on Etsy. I'll link their store down below. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's very me. I love this, and it is the perfect size to hold my Furls hooks, I really love that they finally did a black with gold glitter. And then of course I have some of the Sagittarius hooks because those have the gold glitter in them as well with the purple. Just all of this is just my favorite. And then my skull scissors. So let me get back out my 6 hook J. And I'm going with the J for this because when you look at this Hobbii, and again, Caron Simply Soft you can get. This was actually from Hobbii Halloween last year. They have not done their Halloween release yet, and I have been eagerly anticipating because that is my big Hobbii order. I order usually twice a year, and I do 2 pretty good size orders because of the shipping. And these don't really, if you're familiar with Hobbii, they don't really have names for their colors, so it's just color 02 in their universe Halloween. I have another cake of this. I have plenty of Caron Simply Soft, and this normally would go with it says a 3.5 millimeter or a US 4E. I actually would probably do more like a 3 just because I like tighter stitches, especially with the smaller yarns. But I was thinking, so since this is, let's say for my gauge, I'm used to knowing how I crochet. For my gauge, it's a 3. Okay? My gauge and my tension, it's a 3. Well, with your typical Caron, it's a 5 millimeter for a crochet hook. Since this is the thicker hook, I kind of went more along the size for that. I went with a 6, thinking, okay, well, it's going to be 1 millimeter more, and that's going to make up for how thin. Because this is, I mean, it's almost a fingering weight, but if I just go up that millimeter, I found that really helps create a good defined stitch without it being too split or too tight. But that's also something that if you want to combine yarns when you're crocheting, it's something that I do a lot. I actually really love to do that, especially when, like I said, when it's these really, really thin yarns. It just takes some trial and error and seeing how you like your stitches to look. So I'm gonna get these guys situated over here, I think. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and take this cuff. I'm reaching the end of this cake of the Universe Halloween, so it's the other end has shown itself, and I don't want to deal with that. So I'm kind of trying to put it in a way. Let me go ahead and get this back through the sleeve so I can get this, put that over there. But I'm trying to make it to where I can keep this kind of up and away from my working yarn, since that's the very end of the cut of the cake. And I took off my stitch marker. I'm glad I haven't moved this around way too much, huh? So here we go. And again, I'm going to link the pattern I am working down below. It is Hayhay Crochet, I believe. It's the first pattern I've done of hers. It's very straightforward. I think she does a very good job of explaining, at least with something like this, how to size it and get it to work with you, especially since this goes off of how you want it to fit on your body, which is always nice when you're plus size, or you're taller, or you're shorter and more petite. You're just able to get those extra customizations that you don't get with things off the rack. So I haven't watched the YouTube video, but I'm gonna get all anxious and I'm gonna get all nervous about being watched. I don't know why. I'll get my groove back. I think it's also I don't usually... Oh, I just knocked you. I'm sorry. Here, let's do that. I'm not used to sitting in this chair as much as I did because I'm not working from home anymore. So yeah, if you are working with something, or you're making something, or you're starting this pattern, it does have a YouTube accompaniment that is in the print version of the pattern that is on her site. I have not really watched it, but that is a nice thing that there is a visual aid to it, especially when you're first starting out. I know when I was first starting out, I'm a visual person, and having videos really helped me make a lot of the things that I made when I was first starting, and learn my stitches and all that, because you kind of get it in real time and you can adjust the speed and play it back as many times as you need to. Whereas sometimes with words, there's a learning curve, because there's just there's so much terminology. There's so much terminology and everything when it comes to a written pattern. So if you end up wanting to make this one, or if you're already working on something and you just have this on in the background, checking in every now and then just to see what I'm doing, let me know what you're making down below, or if you have a couple of projects in progress. Are you a person that can only work on one thing at a time to completion? Or do you have a whip stash? I am of the variety that does have a whip stash. I have good intentions. Where my problem and my issue with following through comes is, I'm gonna readjust myself. Okay. Bear with me. I may cut this out. I'm trying to do very minimal editing for this format, just because I want it to be authentic and just real, and it feeling like you guys are hanging out, like we're just hanging out together. So, as I was saying, I have good intentions with my things that I make. And the issue comes in if I have to make two of something. And this is what saved me when it came to doing the hexagon cardigan, because those of you who have made a hexagon cardigan, you know, you make two big hexagons, and then you attach them in a way that creates the sleeves and the rest of the garment and things like that. So since I had so many color changes and I worked with so many colors at one time, it actually helped me work on both sides simultaneously. So I would get two color changes, because in between every color on that cardigan is 2 rows of black, and I have 2 rows of each color on each row. I mean, it's 2 rows of color, 2 rows of black, 2 rows of another color, 2 rows of black, and so on and so forth. And since I did that and I had to do so many color changes, it actually worked out, because whenever I would get to that point of like, okay, I did the black, I did 2 rows of black, I did 2 rows of this next color, this green or what have you, let me do 2 more rows of black. I'll put this side down, and I'll do the same thing on the other side. So I was able to make both sides come up at the same time, basically, which for those of you who have ADHD and struggle with having second sock syndrome, second mitt syndrome, anything that you're having to make pairs of, if you can get away with doing something like that, and I may do like a video about how I do that, it's really not hard. You are having to the one thing with that is you have to make sure that your excuse me, the amount of yarn that we're using, you have to make sure that it is at least the right amount. I always buy extra just because you never know with some yarns. And you also have to mark with, I actually marked with stitch markers and beads. I had some seed beads on one side. I had one seed bead on one side, and then I had another seed bead. I had one seed bead on one side, and then I had a stitch marker with 2 seed beads on the other side. So everything that corresponded with side 1, which was, the 1 seed bead, side A, let's say, all of those yarns in the very middle, I attached a stitch marker with a seed bead in it. And all the yarns that I was working on side 2, or side B, with the 2 seed beads on the stitch marker, I marked all of those yarns with a stitch marker with 2 seed beads. So I was able to keep it straight, especially because one of the yarns I was using, it was another colorway of this Hobbii one. It was actually, I think it's still the Universe XL. It's just a gradient of green to purple to black, and the tinsel that is in it is purple. Really, really pretty, but it does a gradient like this does. So to match the gradient on both sides, I had to be very, very careful with that. And it was a pain in the butt, and it was one of those things that kind of created extra work for me, but totally worth it. I am so excited to finish that guy. I'm just kind of taking a break because I powered through and made myself finish that sleeve last week. And I'm like, okay, I can knock this other sleeve out. I have written down exactly what I need to do, when I need to do it, and how many rows of what I'm doing. So I can copy it on the other side. And so when I do that, when I do the other sleeve, it'll be a little more streamlined. I'll know exactly what it's going to look like, and I know how long it's going to take. It won't take as long as the first sleeve, but it will be exactly identical to the other one. And since I powered through that sleeve in a week and all of that ribbing, when I did the cuffs, one of the things that I thought was really cool, I'd never actually done this when I've made cuffs for anything yet, I made thumb holes into the cuffs. And that's like super exciting. I've debated whether I want to do, see, that's the thing with that Hobbii yarn. Sometimes it's not really I'm blanking on, because it's not worsted, it's not twisted around itself so it can just kind of be a little clumsy sometimes. But once you get used to it, and one of the ways to get used to it is using it in an application like this, where you have another strand of yarn that you're crocheting with. Especially if you're going with a darker color, because any of you fellow black loving, dark color loving alternative individuals out there know how much of a pain black yarn is. I love black yarn. It's usually, when I buy yarn, it's usually black or it's a very dark color. It can be a pain in the butt to work with if you've never worked with it before. If it's a yarn that you're not used to, if it's, you know, a different fiber, there's a lot of things that can just completely be a weird experience with yarn to begin with. Especially, like, okay, for instance, another Hobbii yarn, and I absolutely adore it, and I think I've shown the Batwing shawl. That's a work in progress that I've had going on for a while. And I've been debating, because when I started that, I've learned a lot since working on that and starting it. That was my first time working with that specific yarn. And the weird thing about that yarn, it's Sultan Shadow by Cotton Kings Sultan Shadow, which you can find in Hobbii. Gorgeous, gorgeous yarn. Beautiful gradient, and all of your gradient colors are a gradient to black, or a gradient from black, depending on if you're using the outside of the cake or the inside of the cake to start with, but just absolutely gorgeous. It, as the name implies, because it says it's Cotton Kings, instead of it being twisted like you would expect a worsted weight yarn, with all of the fibers being twisted pretty tight, and you don't have to worry about your hooks splitting them. Cotton yarn like that, it's still 4-ply yarn, but all of the strands are separate, like they're not twisted around each other because it's cotton. So you have a bunch of tiny little strands. And it is definitely, I'd say, the learning curve on that type of yarn if you've never used it. I had an easier time with chenille yarn the first time I used chenille yarn versus 4-ply, 4+ ply, because there are some that have more ply than 4, cotton yarn. So I've had a lot more practice with that type of yarn since I started that shawl, and the reason I haven't gone back to it is because I know when I pull it out of the bag, I'm gonna look at it and be like, because I mean, this doesn't, and I know it doesn't look bad, but I know if I were to start working on it now, the whole second half of that shawl is gonna look a lot cleaner and nicer than the beginning of the shawl. And I know just at this point, as much as it's gonna just hurt, I'm gonna have to frog it. And I haven't mentally prepared for that yet. Those of you who know. I just have not mentally prepared for that. So I know it's inevitable. I really want that shawl to be made. I really want to work on that. I have another cotton yarn that I would like to use and make another one. But I'm not going to just start a new one. I'm going to make myself frog that one, start it over. I'd probably work it up a lot faster than I was working on it. Just because, as I said, like, just being more comfortable with that type of yarn. Your speed changes over time. I've been crocheting, I started crocheting when I was in high school, so I'd say about 15 years ago. but I haven't crocheted consistently through those years. Had an emotionally abusive relationship that kind of just put me in a huge depression in my early 20s. And that steered me away from it. I came back, and when I came back and started working on it, I doubled down and did a lot of amigurumi there for a while. And then stopped doing that. And then I came back to it when I was pregnant with my son. Made him a blanket. I made him a couple of blankets. I made some crochet blankets, and I also sewed him some swaddle blankets when he was a baby. And so those, like, that was fun. And then, of course, you know, being a new mom and all of the wonderful stressors. Fun times, but stressful times when you're a new mom. So the crocheting was not happening at that point. I did pick up diamond painting and worked on that in the evenings, because at the time I was full-on stay-at-home mom. Husband was working, and being the main breadwinner, I was staying home with our brand new baby. And this was also going into the time where I started having some health complications, and that led me to being diagnosed with the problems that I have now, including, you know, the lupus and fibromyalgia and all that fun stuff. So I picked it back. I started picking up crochet back up, I'd say it's been about 2 years ago. The last 2 years I've been just consistently crocheting. I'm better than I've ever been. I've made some good stuff. Like, it's not like the things that I made before were terrible. I've made some nice things. I've made some very nice things. But I don't know. I feel like every time that I've come back to it, I've been immensely better. I haven't been going crazy with Halloween hunting. Because again, we've got some goals financially that we're trying to hit. We're trying to move, and I know when we move, there's going to be a lot of things because we currently share this space with my mom, and we also sometimes have my nephew. So there are going to be some things that I know I'm going to have to basically buy, like, not new, but new to me. We'll have to buy when we move. And then, of course, decorating the place, because, of course, we're all excited about that. Our best friend's moving with us, so it'll be me, my husband, our son, and then our best friend. And you're watching this, love you, Blue. And so it's just really been as money conscious as possible. Luckily, the new job I have, it does pay a lot better. It's just all around a better job than what I had before. And it wasn't that my last job was bad. It actually was a great thing to be able to do, and I was very fortunate to get on that contract that I was working, because I was 100% remote working, can make my own hours. But with that comes with the nature of the work that I was doing was very emotionally difficult. It was I dealt with a lot, we specialized in senior care, and with that, a lot of times, and what we specialized in within senior care was coordinating things like end-of-life services, nursing home care, memory care, a lot of really hard discussions, a lot of stories that I'll never forget, and a lot of nights just crying. I mean, just emotionally, I'm an empath. I tend to take people's stress and their feelings on myself, especially when it's a negatively charged situation. I love to make people feel better, but in exchange, I take their pain. And I had a lot of rough nights, but at the time it paid the bills, and before my kids started school, it worked out perfectly. But there was never, it had been talked about, but we never got a raise. I mean, we did get bonuses monthly for certain things. If we got bragged on, or things like that, that was nice. And I pretty consistently made that, but the amount of work going into that to actually get that amount of money was very emotionally draining too. It was affecting my sleep. It was just all around emotionally a very hard job after a while. And I just think I got burnt out on it. I worked there for 3 years. Had an amazing staff that I worked with. It's just some very hard calls, and I don't like talking on the phone. I really don't. I'm not a phone conversation person. And that was mostly what my job was. So that burnt me out really bad. In my current job, it's better pay. It's definitely more physically demanding, so I get physically exhausted, but the mental exhaustion isn't there. And once I leave work and walk out the door and go home, I'm no longer at work. It doesn't linger like an office job does for me. So, and no place is perfect. My current workplace, of course, there's things that aren't perfect there either. But it's a step forward. And that's one thing that I've always had to learn in life. And I think what really showed me when I was going through all this with getting diagnosed and getting treatment, a treatment plan in order for my various health issues. I don't like getting into them too much, because I'm not trying to ask for sympathy or anything. I don't like that kind of attention, because it is what it is and I can't change it, but I can manage it the best that I can, and that's what I'm doing. But the amount of pain and discomfort that I was in up until I finally formally got diagnosed with the things that are wrong with me, it's pain and fatigue that I would never wish on another person. And it happened so suddenly, and my life completely changed. And definitely one of the hardest things I've ever been through. But with that, I remember going to all the doctor's appointments and my mom kind of being there with me and me saying, I know that this isn't ever going to go away. I've accepted that. Whatever it is, it's chronic. I will live with it the rest of my life, and potentially one day it's going to have complications that will lead to it being the end of my life. I'm not looking for a miracle cure. I'm not looking for just the end all be all. I am looking for a step forward, a step back to normalcy. I want improvement. And ever since I started thinking about things like that, that's kind of been what I look at a lot is I'm not looking for, like for instance, us moving. It has been like pulling teeth with some of these places trying to get them to contact me. I've had some great leads. I've toured some places. There's this one house in general that I am absolutely in love with. We're all in love with it. I got to go see it in person. I got to go take my time and walk around. And it's still listed as available, but I can't get in touch with anybody at the realtor's office. And they were supposed to be sending me an application. And it's like, we meet all the criteria, just please let me show you. I have proof. I have proof that everything that you're looking for in tenants, you've got with us. But I have to remind myself again, every step forward counts. And it's all about the small things. Like, what's results without the journey, you know? This would also be kind of a fun format to do. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I read a lot. I listen to a lot of books. I do love music a lot. I'm a classically trained musician, and I was going to be a music teacher at some point in my life. It's just not a stable job choice at times, but I sometimes just get tired of listening to the same old thing over and over again. So, of course, that's where podcasts and audiobooks come in. And I listen to a lot of true crime, of course. Big surprise there, big shocker. I listen to a lot of true crime and stuff, but I also listen to a lot of things about history. I like learning. I like learning and absorbing information. In any way, especially like that, it's just I can absorb it like a sponge. So it'd be cool to share some facts or something, or find a topic and start talking about it maybe. Let me know down below, because like I said, I think I'm onto something with this, because even just being able to talk to you guys, just the all of you, whoever's watching, which thank you for being here, thank you for watching, thank you for supporting the channel. And if you want to become a part of the Craft Coven, we'd love to have you here. You can subscribe. That's a great way to support me for free. Sharing is a great way to support me for free. Commenting, even just telling me hello, asking me about your day. I always love talking to you guys down there. That's why I kind of want to start doing live streams at some point, because I'd really like to be able to talk directly to you guys. But if there's certain topics, or if you just want to keep with this laid back format of just letting me ramble to you in the background as we sit here and work on stuff, that's always an option. And another thing I've been thinking about, I think I want to do a second channel just for the stuff that doesn't fit within the craft sphere, like more lifestyle things. Especially we'll be moving. There's a lot of DIY stuff I want to get into, that a lot of it, yes, will fit into this, but there's gonna be some things like thrifting. Like I want to take you out thrifting and stuff, because we're gonna get as much stuff as we can secondhand. That's just how we are. Less waste. Give things a second life. Things like that. I didn't do a whole, like I said, I've been watching my budget, so I haven't been doing a whole lot of Halloween spending like I normally would do around this time of year. But there are some cool things I found, and we've gone out to some different places and bought, you know, bought a few things here and there. Like today I went to the Dollar Tree, and they actually have a surprising selection this year, and it actually looks quite nice. So I think I'm going to end this one right here. I think I've rambled enough. Yeah, but I've come a long way. We've got a sleeve going, so I'm either, I don't want to do a cuff because these sleeves, I'll have to taper them in some, and I think they're just going to be a little too bulky to do that with it being a cropped like shrug. I mean, I'm sure it would look fine, but it's not the look I'm looking for. I think to me it'll look more puffy sleeves, and we're not trying to be Seinfeld here. So I think I may do a flared sleeve. I think that'll like just do a bell sleeve, which I've never done with a granny stitch, and I've been looking at some different ways of doing it, so that will be fun to try to figure out. I may just go ahead and just let this one just have some, you know, just long, slappy sleeves, and just let that be it. Depends on how sick I am of working on this once I get to that point. We'll see. Also considering the fact that I've got that cardigan I want to finish, and I have a couple of ideas, because I did get some yarn recently. I have a couple ideas of some things that I want to start working on. And there are a couple of tutorials that I have in mind for the spooky season, like coffin patches. I actually am working on slowly but surely, a coffin blanket with like coffin granny squares. I have a lot of things planned. I'm so sorry I've been gone, but I'm happy to be back, and this will be more consistent schedule now from now on, especially as things just kind of keep settling into place as they need to be. But thank you again for your time. I hope you've made some great progress in what you're working on. I enjoyed this little bit of time with you, or we could just hang out and chill. I think it's very healthy for us to do that. And I will see you guys next time. Bye, everyone.